Holden says it has nothing to prove with this, the all-new Equinox. But that's not really the case, because this is the long overdue replacement for the Captiva, so it has plenty to prove itself worthy of Australian SUV buyers. For starters, it has some serious competition in the form of the Volkswagen Tiguan, Mazda CX-5 and Toyota RAV4.
The Volkswagen Tiguan 110 TSI is a former Drive Car of the Year champion and remains the benchmark in this class. The Mazda CX-5 and Toyota RAV4 are two of the most popular SUVs in this market. So, does the Holden have what it takes to compete with the best? The Equinox is a big part of Holden's post-manufacturing plans. While large sedans like the Commodore are out of favour with families, mid-size SUVs like this are all the rage. Priced from $32,990, the Equinox LS Plus we're testing here comes generously equipped for the money. Standard gear includes 17-inch alloy wheels, a reversing camera and rear parking sensors, automatic headlights with LED daytime running lights, and Holden's MyLink infotainment system with a 7-inch colour touchscreen, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and Bluetooth. Importantly for families, the LS Plus gets Holden's suite of active safety features, which includes autonomous emergency braking, lane keep assist, lane departure warning, forward collision warning, blind spot monitoring, and rear cross traffic alert. Unfortunately, the forward collision warning is one of the most irritating elements of the Equinox. It's the most sensitive system of this type we've encountered, and it vibrates the seats on a regular basis.
First impressions in the Equinox are a little disappointing. Look, there's some shiny highlights, but overall, what you're confronted with is a lot of, to be blunt, cheap looking grey plastic. However, if you scratch a little bit deeper, look, there's decent storage. I think this glove box is massive. The highlight for me though are the seats. They're a little firm, but they do offer good support. And quite frankly, this grey fabric with the contrast in stitching, I think it looks even better than the leather chairs you get in the range topper model. But where the Equinox really shines is in the back. It's really roomy. It's by far the most spacious of this four we've got here. And particularly width-wise, it's got quite a wide back seat. So if you've got a family of 5 and you need to carry 3 kids in the back, this is the one to pick. And all that rear passenger space doesn't come at the expense of luggage room. There's still plenty of space in this big boot, and it's the only one of these 4 that has underfloor storage, which is a real practicality bonus.
The Equinox is powered by a 1.5 litre 4-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine paired to a 9-speed automatic transmission. It's a small engine, but it produces a respectable 127 kilowatts of power and 275 newton-meters of torque, making it the most potent of this quartet.
The Equinox was developed by Chevrolet, but Holden managed to do its own ride and handling program in Australia to suit our conditions. You know, we want something that can ride the bumps on our less than perfect roads, but also we want an SUV that handles it. We don't want it too soft and sloppy. But that's what the Equinox is. It's managed to find a balance between having that good control over bumps, the good compliance, but also being quite a responsive SUV. The steering, for example, is quite good. You know, on paper you think it's quite a compact engine for quite a sizable vehicle, but it does a good job. It's got good pickup, it's got good bottom end, it's got that torque low down in the rev range, which is what you want. The 9-speed auto, it could be a bit better tuned. There's a couple of times where it can hunt for gears or hold the gear too long. But overall, I think Holden's done a good job.
The Tiguan has been our pick of this class since it arrived in 2016, when it won our Drive Car of the Year top prize. The 110 TSI Trendline is the entry-level model in the range, and it's priced from $34,490 when equipped with a dual-clutch automatic transmission. Standard gear includes 17-inch alloy wheels, automatic headlights and wipers, LED taillights, and an 8-inch infotainment touchscreen that incorporates Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, as well as Bluetooth connectivity. It has a solid safety package with AEB, lane keep and assist, fatigue detection, and a reversing camera, as well as semi-autonomous parking, all included as standard.
One of the things that really stands out about the Tiguan is the interior. It's got a really great, almost premium level of fit and finish and just overall presentation. It feels good quality. But it's also got plenty of good storage spaces. It's a thoughtful kind of layout. Back here, it's just as impressive in the Tiguan. As you can see, there's heaps of room. Even as an adult, I can fit really comfortably despite the compact dimensions of the car. Plus, these seats actually slide forwards and backwards. Criticisms though, it is a little bit light on storage. You've got these door pockets, but you don't get any cup holders. You miss out on the tray tables that you get in the Comfort line, the next model up. There's not even any cup holders in the through port here, but overall, it's a really well-packaged small SUV. And that clever packaging continues to the boot, where it's actually quite a decent size for what is ultimately still quite a compact SUV on the outside.
The Volkswagen has the smallest engine in this contest, but it punches well above its size. The 1.4 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol engine pumps out 110 kilowatts and 250 newton meters and is paired to a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic. With a claimed fuel economy of 6.3 litres per 100 k's, the Volkswagen is the most efficient of this group.
The Tiguan really does set the benchmark in this class in so many ways, particularly on-road. It may be a small engine, but it's got plenty of pickup. It's got all that torque delivered right down low in the rev range, so it feels quite strong even off the mark, and it's got good response when you're on the move. Look, this DSG transmission, they're not perfect. It's still a little bit jerky at low speeds, but overall on the move especially, it feels really slick, it works really well, and it actually helps extract the best performance from the little engine. And as for the way it drives, well, the Tiguan, is the modern SUV in so many ways. It drives not that dissimilarly than what you expect a Golf to. It's got good response. It's quite firm, so it does ride over the bumps. Occasionally you'll get a jolt through a bump, but overall it actually feels quite compliant. It's never uncomfortable. It's a little bit firmer to get that body control, so it does feel quite responsive and really enjoyable to drive for an SUV.
The CX-5 has been consistently one of the most popular SUVs in the country for years. The Japanese brand released the second generation in 2017, and it has continued to sit near the top of the sales charts. And it's easy to see why. The 2-litre Max Sport we're testing here is priced from $34,390 and comes loaded with 17-inch alloys, dual-zone air conditioning, navigation, keyless ignition, Bluetooth, digital radio and app integration for the likes of Stitcher and AHA. Safety-wise, there's AEB, blind spot monitoring, rear cross-traffic alert and a reversing camera.
The CX-5's always been quite a well-presented car inside, but for this latest generation, Mazda has added a bit more bling. There's a bit of these sort of shinier highlights around the cabin that just lift the overall ambience. There's decent storage up front too, a couple of cup holders and another ledge here. Overall, it just feels like quite a polished package. Unfortunately, the same can't be said of the back seat. It's clearly the smallest of the group we have, but you do get some nice little extras. There's a couple of cup holders, this little outlet for USBs, and so of course it's got air conditioning vents, which is good for the family. But overall, it just feels a bit cramped. But what it lacks in rear legroom, it compensates for somewhat with quite a decent sized boot. It's quite wide and it's reasonably deep.
The front-wheel drive Max Sport we're testing is powered by a 2-litre engine that's good for 114 kilowatts of power and 200 newton meters of torque, and is paired to a conventional 6-speed automatic transmission.
Mazda prides itself on its zoom reputation, but to be honest, I think this latest generation CX-5 is a bit of a backward step in that sense. It's still good, don't get me wrong, but I think there's a few areas where it just doesn't feel quite as nice as the old model, and it doesn't feel as good by any means as the Volkswagen Tiguan. I mean, the steering, for example, is just not quite as nicely sorted as it used to be. It just feels a little bit light, a little bit dead off center, but overall, it's still a good SUV to drive. As for the engine, Mazda has persisted with its non-turbocharged lineup for this, and it shows just in terms of getting off the mark. It may be a bigger engine, it may have similar torque to the Volkswagen and the Holden, but because that torque is accessed much higher up in the rev range, you do need to give it a bit more of a push before it really goes.
One of the Mazda's closest rivals in the sales charts is the RAV4. We're driving the mid-grade GXL model of the Japanese giant's consistently popular small SUV. It's priced from $35,490, which makes it the most expensive in this test. Standard equipment includes 18-inch alloys, LED headlights and taillights, auto headlights and wipers, dual-zone climate control, keyless entry and ignition, and a small 6.1-inch infotainment screen, but it includes navigation. Safety features include active cruise control, a reversing camera, and front and rear parking sensors.
Like the Holden, the RAV has a pretty basic looking interior. It certainly lacks the premium fit and finish of the Mazda and especially the Volkswagen. I mean, take the infotainment screen for example. It's quite small with these big buttons. It's like using an old Nokia phone instead of a modern smartphone. And look, it's got decent space inside and it's got good storage. It feels a little haphazard in terms of the design. Just overall in some places, some of the switchgear and stuff, it just looks and feels, to be frank, a little cheap. That feeling continues into the back, where this is the only member of our quartet that doesn't have any rear air conditioning vents, either down in the center console or up here on the side. That's a big deal if you plan on carrying your kids or family members in the back on a regular basis. As for space, well, look, there's adequate room, but for the car of this size, I'm actually surprised there isn't more room. It doesn't feel any bigger than, say, the Tiguan, which feels like a more compact and agile car to drive. So the packaging could be better. The trade-off is you do get quite a large boot in the back, so it will swallow a family's worth of luggage.
Like the Mazda, the RAV4 is powered by a 2-litre 4-cylinder petrol engine that drives the front wheels. It produces 107 kilowatts and 187 newton meters and is paired to a 6-speed automatic transmission. Not only does that make it the least powerful of this group, it's the thirstiest as well, with a claimed fuel use of 7.7 litres per 100.
Not surprisingly, a small non-turbocharged engine in quite a decent sized SUV doesn't make for a lot of performance. The RAV just feels a little sluggish at times, particularly climbing up hills or off the mark. You really need to give it a push before it really wants to go. But it's a small engine, it does a respectable job of what it is, but it's certainly a little bit behind the performance that you get in the Volkswagen or even the Holden. In terms of how it drives, well, Toyota is trying to make more exciting cars these days, but this RAV is probably not one of them. It's still on the older generation platform, so it feels a little firm at times, which is surprising given Toyota's reputation for sort of making softer, a bit more lazier cars. Can tend to bounce and jar over some of the imperfections in the road. But having said that, it steers nicely. The ride on the smoother road is quite good. I mean, that firmness of the suspension does give it better body control, so it does handle and respond to driver inputs better than previous Toyotas. So I certainly, while it's at the bottom of this group, it's no bad thing. So, has the Equinox proved itself?
Yes and no. The Equinox is an impressive SUV in many respects, with a spacious cabin and good value for money. However, its drab interior presentation and a driving experience that falls short of the benchmark holds it back. While it may not be class leading though, it's still a big improvement over the Captiva it replaces and gives Holden a better chance of competing in such a cutthroat part of the SUV market.
But our pick of the best small SUVs, well, it's still the Volkswagen Tiguan.
There's a reason why the Tiguan's our favourite. It's stylish, well equipped, good value, well presented and well packaged. It's certainly proved itself again.